Going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. I'm Celeste Armas. I'm CEO and co-founder of RiskRater. And we're happy to have all of you here this morning. We have two very wonderful speakers, Ana Maria de Alba, who will be moderating the program today, and Willie Rondon from the IRS, and Ana Maria will introduce him a little bit more. Before we start the program, I thought I'd take just a couple of minutes and talk to you a little bit about RiskRater for those of you that are not familiar with RiskRater. RiskRater performs the annual AML, CFT, and sanctions risk assessment. And as all of you probably are aware, FinCEN in June of this year moved from, we want you to have, you should have the annual risk assessment, to now it's a regulatory requirement. And this is very important because we know that doing the AML CFT risk assessment is a difficult task. As Ana Maria will speak, she is the CEO of CSMB International, consulting firm that focuses on regulatory compliance. And we've been doing risk assessments with Excel, building macros, and struggling, as you all do when you do, if you use Excel. And we looked for a solution in the marketplace, couldn't find one. And decided to build one. And, fundamentally, the issue is this. We know, because we've done the work ourselves, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of costs. It's a very complex process, especially if you want to do it correctly. And if you're using Excel, it's prone to errors. And anytime you have human intervention in a process, that can happen. And at the end of the day, we would hand our clients, a 120-page or 200-page report, which is fantastic. You show it to your regulator, but is it really a way for you to manage strategically your risk? No, because it's a static tool. So we focused on coming up with a tool that really met all of our requirements, and also we knew met regulator requirements. We now have a solution which is going to cut your time in half. It is the most accurate methodology. It calculates inherent risk based on all of the inflow and outflow of transactions that go through the institution during that covered period. And so the inherent risk score is calculated based on the volume and value of all of your transactions. And let's face it, if the inherent risk score is not solid, it's like building a house with a weak foundation. Everything else flows after that inherent risk score. And it is extremely difficult to do this using any kind of manual approach, as we know well. And at the end of the day, we're leaving you not with just a static tool, but here you have a solution that you can access during the year. You can run your risk assessment on an as-needed basis. Generally, most institutions are running it once a year. Some are starting to run it quarterly, which we think is great.
Excellent. Yeah. If we can just move on to quickly.
Yeah, and just to give you an idea, we're in 8 different countries, institutions of all sizes. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ana Maria.
Thank you so much. And I'm sorry to cut you, but I know that I've seen Willie's presentation, and I want to have as much time as possible for that. But thank you so much, Celeste, for giving us the introduction. And I want to introduce today our special guest, Willie Rondon. Willie, a lot of you may know him already. You may know him from seeing him in a lot of the FIBA courses and the conferences, and just about a lot of presentations that he's done globally. He's a seasoned financial crimes investigator, especially specializes a lot in crypto, tax. He's also a tax expert, and he's an enrolled agent with 22 years in IRS criminal investigations experience. He focuses on forensic accounting and representing taxpayers in IRS examinations, collections, and appeals. And he brings in with him very strong expertise in digital asset taxation. That's pretty spiffy, I should say. I didn't even know what a digital asset taxation was until I met Willie. Willie's the founder also of and also the managing member of Willigent. Left the IRS earlier this year or at the end of last year, and he opened up his own firm. He's been collaborating with both with CSMB and with RiskRater a great deal, especially in 2024, and we expect that he's going to do a lot more with us as the year goes before the year ends, and by 2025, especially with RiskRadar mostly. His focuses is in offering services in cryptocurrency taxation, as I said earlier, forensic accounting, and AML compliance. I also want to he's served. I wanted to say that he has served as special agent in charge and supervisory special agent overseeing field investigations in South Florida, which you know are really juicy, in Puerto Rico and in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Today's presentations are going to focus, as many of you attended the last, I'm sorry, the last webinar that we had back in September. And so the focus of our webinars were basically what Celeste said, the FinCEN fact sheet in the proposed rule making. And we focused ours in two sections. One was the risk assessment process, which I covered back in October. And the one that we're going to cover today, we're focusing on the AML CFT National Priorities. And that's what Willie is going to talk about today. He's going to concentrate on cybercrime, including relevant cybersecurity and virtual currency considerations, which are going to be important for a lot of you. Not that you are, as a bank, maybe issuing these cryptocurrencies, but what to do, what to look for when your clients are transacting, and the fiat that is in the backup of those transactions, those crypto transactions, is flowing through your organization. He's also going to talk about fraud, since proceeds from fraudulent activities may be laundered through accounts controlled by cyber actors and money mules. And the last topic he's going to address is going to be the transnational criminal organization activity. With that, I'm going to pass it on right over to Willie. And Willie has a great presentation for you guys today, which we will be able to share. And remember that this presentation is also it is recorded, and we will be able to share the recording with you as well. Thank you, and go ahead, Willie. The floor is all yours.
Well, thank you, Ana Maria. I'm actually here trying to work out my presentation. Can you guys see it on the screen? All right. So thank you very much, Anna, and thank you for that introduction. And it sounds like a lot of titles, and I'm just glad I passed that page of 22 years working for the government, which it really enriched to the maximum, I think, my expertise in financial crimes. As you know, in IRS, we specialize in tax, and then also specialize in money laundering schemes, and also Pan Secrecy Act violations, such as those committed by money service businesses and banks and stuff like that. So it's been really a great experience moving into the private side of things, right? And more importantly, having now the opportunity to work with great professionals like you, Ana Maria, Celeste, and others, particularly members of FIBA and other organizations. So it's been fantastic. So the reason I'm here today, Ana, thank you for the invitation, and I really want to present to everyone here my perspective, right, coming from the government after working 22 years and sitting behind the scenes, right, in reviewing all the suspicious activity reports, CTRs, 8300s, and all those forms that financial institution has to file with the government, right? And here we are sitting now with a proposed national priorities, right, that were published by FinCEN. So my goal here is pretty much answer this question, right, for the financial institutions. Is your organization ready, and it's on the way to be ready when it comes down to one or three of the national priorities that has to do with primarily cybercrime, fraud, and then the TCO, the transnational crime organizations. On my last position in IRS, I had the opportunity to work as one of the two international operations director overseeing the overseas office. Some of the offices that are overseas were the operations in Latin America and in high-risk countries for transnational crime organizations such as Mexico, Colombia, and other areas in Latin America. I also oversees the operations in Hong Kong. And with that comes a lot of investigations, right? Luckily, I was in a position, I was not doing the investigation at that stage, but I was actually in charge of ensuring that our partnership with international partners was one that it would allow us to bring the evidence in the US to exchange that. A lot of that evidence, Anna, I had to tell you, it really came from, understanding the financial system, right? And working with partners from the financial system and those that offer those type of information through the filing of the suspicious activity report. So here today, I'm going to focus on understanding in providing pretty much the participants an overview of what the cybercrime fraud is related to. And I'm going to provide some examples, including an example that I recently received from a friend regarding the ransomware and how that is impacting our communities and what is it that financial institutions need to look for. I also, towards the end, going to cover the issues that we're having with international organizations involving fentanyl. As we all know, that's a huge problem that we have in our society right now. And the banks and the financial institutions, the MSBs, the convertible virtual currency exchanges, and all those institutions are really our first defense, right? And as a former investigator, I could tell you that a lot of our cases were initiated from information the financial institution filed. Unfortunately, it's all private, it's all grand jury information, it's not shared to the detail with the financial institutions. But those organizations and banks that actually work with me, and they know because you work with the compliance officers a lot of time on getting the information. That's actually what we're seeing in terms of the fentanyl globally and nationwide. More than anything, it's really a lot of information being reported by the banks, and a lot of time the banks doesn't know that the transactions are actually directly connected to fentanyl, because obviously you're not going to have a drug dealer walking into a bank and say, "Hey, here's $9,000," and that comes straight from fentanyl, right? So the banks have to prepare themselves and adapt themselves, get the training corresponding, have the technology in place to be able to identify all that. So let's start with the
Willie, I'm
cybercrime.
just going to cut in for just one little second because I've been reminded. Para los que están oyendo, está todo, lo estamos traduciendo en español, así que si tienen cualquier duda me pueden pasar un chat si no lo encuentran. Sorry, Willie, I just wanted to mention that.
No, that's okay. Thank you very much. And I was joking with the translator before I start, if she was going to translate me from English to Spanish, Spanish to English, because as a good Puerto Rican, sometimes I speak Spanglish, right? So now, so let's get to the cybercrime, and the first thing I have here is pretty much define really what some of these the key definitions of, for example, the cybercrime is, we all know, it involved the misuse of accounts for illicit gain, like, for example, ransomware payments or hacking proceeds, right? When someone get hacked, they ask for a ransom, and then that ransom is paid a certain way, right? We're going to cover some of those payments. We're going to cover some of the red flags. We're going to cover some of the guidance out there that is offered so we could all prepare a little better with regards to these. In terms of ransomware, is pretty much the type of malicious software, what's formerly known as malware, that locks access to the system or the data and offers often it encrypts the users, right? So it's the business owner, the hospitals, the police department, anyone that is being a victim pretty much gets locked out, right? You get an email, say your computer is being locked down. We got your information. You need to pay this much money. A lot of time, the ransom comes into play because there's some certain risk for reputation on some of the businesses, right? A lot of businesses, for example, hospital, doctor, officers, they don't want to come out and say that they were part of a hack, right? And they pay the ransom, unfortunately, but right, they don't go to the authorities. They act on their own, and that pretty much results in really some some ransom to be paid. The bottom line is that pretty much victims are extorted and ransom payments are paid in order to regain access. And a lot of these crimes are being paid, or the perpetrators are asking for the payments to be paid in convertible virtual currencies, as we know, more friendly, say crypto, right? It plays a significant role, including the user of mixers to make it even more complicated for the law enforcement or the investigators trying to trace the funds. It really helps the criminals facilitate the crimes, and because it really anonymizes the transactions. So anytime you see some sort of connection between a mixer and your institution, you could think that there's potential for a crime to be happening somehow, and you should do some additional due diligence when it comes to that, because most likely there could be a criminal behind it. In terms of the ransomware attacks, uh, the results of the ransomware is really a loss of critical information and the business functionality, and it really disrupt operations. Uh, the targeted sectors include governments, financial entities, educational entities, healthcare institutions, with smaller municipalities and healthcare organizations. These are the ones that have been highlighted as the most affected by this ransomware. As a matter of fact, when I was in